Remember when Bitcoin was $100 and you did nothing? Then it hit $1,000 and you thought it was too late. And at $10,000 you told yourself you missed the boat? Well, here's what nobody's telling you, and why 0.1 Bitcoin might be your last real shot. Most people are about to make the same mistake again, but this time it's not about missing a whole Bitcoin, it's about missing just 0.1, 1/10 of a coin. That tiny fraction is on its way to becoming something most people will never be able to afford, not because Bitcoin failed, but because it succeeded. My name is Sydney, and I've spent the last 7 years studying money, crypto, and investments. While most people were buying things that lose value, I started stacking Bitcoin when people still laughed at it, and that decision secured my financial future. Now I want to show you why the window is closing faster than anyone realizes, and why if you're not paying attention right now, you're going to be one of those people saying, I can't believe I could have afforded that 5 years from now. Here's the math you need to understand. Bitcoin has a hard cap, 21 million coins total, forever. No central bank can print more. No government can inflate it. No billionaire can change the code. It's mathematically finite in a world where everything else is being inflated into oblivion. But here's what most people forget when they hear 21 million. Not all of those coins even exist anymore. Right now, 19.9 million Bitcoin have been mined. But here's the brutal truth. An estimated 3 to 4 million Bitcoin are gone forever. Lost in forgotten wallets, trapped on destroyed hard drives, locked behind private keys that no longer exist. People who bought Bitcoin in 2010 and threw away their laptop. People who died without telling anyone their seed phrase. Coins sent to wrong addresses that can never be recovered. That Bitcoin, it's not coming back ever. So we're not talking about 21 million Bitcoin. We're talking about maybe 17 million that actually exist in the real world today. Now divide that by Earth's population, 8 billion people. That's 0.0021 Bitcoin per person if Bitcoin becomes what everyone says it will. The global reserve asset, digital gold, the foundation of the new financial system. If you own 0.1 Bitcoin right now, you're holding almost 50 times more than the global average in a future where Bitcoin wins. But people don't see it that way yet because they're still measuring in dollars. They see $10,000 or $11,000 for 0.1 Bitcoin and think that's a lot of money for a fraction of a coin. And yeah, in today's dollars it is, but they're not understanding what 0.1 Bitcoin actually represents. It's not a small amount. It's a massive slice of a finite network that the entire world is about to fight over. Think back to 2011. Owning 1 Bitcoin meant nothing. It was worth less than $1. You could mine it on a laptop. People were giving it away on forums just to spread awareness. In 2017, owning 1 Bitcoin suddenly meant something. It hit $20,000. Everyone who ignored it at $1 suddenly cared, but most of them still didn't buy because it already went up too much. By 2025, the conversation has shifted again. Now people are saying, okay, I can't afford a whole coin, but maybe I can get 0.1 Bitcoin. That's the next scarcity level. It's like how people used to say, I want to own 1 ounce of gold. The next generation is going to say, I want to own 0.1 Bitcoin. Except by the time that mindset goes mainstream, it'll already be too late. Because while retail investors are waiting for dips and trying to time the market, institutions have been front-running this for years. MicroStrategy alone holds over 528,000 Bitcoin, and they're buying more every quarter. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, Fidelity's Bitcoin ETF, Grayscale, all of them are hoarding tens of thousands of Bitcoin every single week. And here's what that means for you. Every coin they buy, every Satoshi that moves into institutional cold storage, is 1 less coin available to regular people. These institutions aren't trading. They're not selling when the price dips. They're accumulating and holding forever, which means the free float supply, the Bitcoin actually available for you to buy, is shrinking every single day. And once the majority of Bitcoin sits in ETFs, sovereign wealth funds, and long-term institutional holders, the supply available to everyone else becomes razor thin. That's when 0.1 Bitcoin stops being expensive and becomes impossible. Let's talk about something nobody wants to admit. Your cash savings are dying. Right now. Today. If you've been watching the news, or if you haven't been sleeping under a rock, you've noticed inflation isn't just some abstract economic term anymore. It's eating your purchasing power every single day. The Federal Reserve printed more money in 2020 and 2021 than existed in the entire history of the United States before 2008. Let that sink in. More dollars were created in 2 years than in the previous 230 years combined. And that money didn't just disappear. It's sloshing around in the system, making everything you need to buy more expensive while your salary stays the same. A coffee that cost $2 5 years ago now costs $4. A house that cost $300,000 in 2019 now costs $500,000. Rent is up 40% in most major cities. Groceries are up 25 to 30%. Gas fluctuates but trends higher. Your money is worth less every year, and that's not changing. It's accelerating. Meanwhile, governments are drowning in debt they can never repay. The US alone has $36 trillion in debt and counting. There are only 2 ways out of that default, which destroys the system overnight, or inflate it away, which destroys your savings slowly. Guess which one they're choosing? They're going to print more money. They have to. And every dollar they print makes your existing dollars worth less. Your savings account earning 0.5% interest while inflation runs at 4 to 6%, you're losing 3.5 to 5.5% of your purchasing power every single year. That's not safety. That's slow motion robbery. And here's the kicker. Central banks are now developing CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Programmable money, traceable money, controllable money. They'll tell you it's about convenience and security. What they won't tell you is that it gives them the ability to freeze your account, block your transactions, set expiration dates on your money, or control what you're allowed to buy. Bitcoin is the antidote to all of that. It's permissionless. It's borderless. It's mathematically scarce. No one can freeze your wallet. No one can block your transaction. No one can inflate your holdings. That's why every cycle, more people wake up to what Bitcoin actually is. It's not a trade. It's not a stock. It's not a gamble. It's the most secure property right ever created in human history. Let me tell you why most people will miss 0.1 Bitcoin, even though they're watching it happen right now. It's not because they're stupid. It's because they're stuck in 3 psychological traps that the system trained them to fall into. Trap number 1, short-term thinking. People still treat Bitcoin like a stock. Something to trade, something to time. They buy when it's pumping because they have FOMO. They sell when it drops because they panic, and they repeat this cycle until they've lost both their conviction and their capital. Meanwhile, the people who just quietly accumulated and held, the ones who bought at $500, at $5,000, at $50,000 and never sold, those people now own life-changing amounts of Bitcoin. Bitcoin rewards patience, not perfection. It doesn't matter if you bought at the perfect bottom. What matters is that you stayed in the game long enough for the world to catch up. If you zoom out on Bitcoin's price chart, it has never punished long-term holders. Ever. It only punishes people who try to outsmart it, who try to trade in and out, who sell in fear and buy back higher. The system wants you thinking short-term. It wants you checking prices every day, panicking at dips, celebrating pumps, and exhausting yourself emotionally until you give up. That's how they shake you out before Bitcoin goes to levels that actually matter. Trap number 2, disbelief in exponential growth. People understand linear growth. 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 6, 6 becomes 8. But Bitcoin doesn't grow linearly, it grows exponentially. And most people can't wrap their heads around exponential math, even when you show them the numbers. Michael Saylor, the guy who bet his entire company on Bitcoin and is now sitting on billions in unrealized gains, he ran the numbers. Bitcoin's long-term growth rate averages around 29% per year. At that pace, Bitcoin doubles roughly every 2.5 years. Not grows, doubles. Let's do the math on what that actually means for you. If Bitcoin sits at $110,000 today and continues at that 29% rate, by 2027, in 2.5 years, it will be worth $220,000 per coin. By 2030, in 5 years, it will be worth $500,000 to $600,000 per coin. That means 0.1 Bitcoin, 1/10 of a coin, would be worth $50,000 to $60,000 in 5 years. That's a down payment on a house. That's a paid-off car and a year of living expenses. That's your kid's college fund. That's early retirement money for some people. And even if you think I'm being too optimistic, even if you cut those numbers in half because you're skeptical, you're still looking at $25,000 to $30,000 for 0.1 Bitcoin. That's still life-changing money for most people. That's still more than most Americans have in their savings account right now. But here's the thing. In 2010, 0.1 Bitcoin bought you 2 bites of pizza. In 2025, 0.1 Bitcoin costs $11,000. In 2030, 0.1 Bitcoin could literally buy you a house, or at least the down payment on one. The trajectory isn't subtle, it's exponential. And most people won't believe it until it's already happened and they can't afford it anymore. Every single time, the skeptics were wrong, and they'll be wrong again. Not because Bitcoin is magic, but because the math is inevitable. Finite supply plus increasing demand equals higher prices. It's not complicated. Trap number 3, lifestyle inflation. This is the hardest one because it's brutally honest. Most people could afford 0.1 Bitcoin if they really wanted to, over time, through consistent accumulation. But they don't, because they spend their future wealth on present comfort. New iPhones every year, streaming subscriptions they barely use, $8 coffees, $60,000 cars they can't afford, vacations on credit cards. All the temporary dopamine hits that trade away long-term freedom. They're choosing comfort today over independence tomorrow. Meanwhile, 0.1 Bitcoin, something that could one day represent decades of savings, decades of financial security, feels too expensive to them. That's the trap. It's not that they can't afford Bitcoin, it's that they don't yet understand what Bitcoin represents. Comfort is the new poverty. When you're comfortable, you stop preparing for what's coming. And here's what's coming. A world with rising inflation, surveillance money, digital control systems, and wealth concentration at levels never seen before. That world won't reward comfort. It will reward independence. And owning 0.1 Bitcoin might be the line between people who own a piece of that independence and people who rent their entire future from those who do. The great wealth transfer is happening right now. So here is what you must do. First, zoom out for a second. The entire global financial system is shifting. Governments are drowning in debt they'll never repay. Currencies are being printed at record paces. And central banks are openly exploring digital currencies that give them total control over your money. At the same time, over $100 trillion in wealth is expected to transfer from baby boomers to millennials and Gen Z over the next 2 decades. And guess which generation understands digital assets better? The old guard still trusts banks and government bonds. The new generation already trusts code more than institutions. As that wealth transfer accelerates, Bitcoin becomes the default store of value for an entire generation. By then, the idea of owning 0.1 Bitcoin will sound like someone in 2025 saying, "I want to own 10 acres of prime Manhattan real estate." It might be possible in theory, but it won't be for sale at prices regular people can afford. And here's another accelerant nobody's talking about. Bitcoin ETFs. Now that BlackRock, Fidelity, and other institutions have Bitcoin ETFs, something massive is happening behind the scenes. Every time someone buys shares of a Bitcoin ETF, that fund has to buy real Bitcoin and lock it in cold storage. Those coins don't move. They're not available for trading. They're gone from the open market. That means fewer coins available on exchanges, which means when demand spikes, there's nothing to buy, which means price volatility, but only in one direction, up. It's the perfect setup for what's coming next, the hyper-scarcity phase. when everyone realizes Bitcoin's supply is truly finite and the race to own even a fraction becomes desperate. I'll be honest with you, I'm not trying to time the market anymore. I tried that in my early years, bought high, sold low, missed rallies, bought back higher. It never worked. It's a losing game. So here's what I'm doing now instead. I accumulate consistently, automatically, quietly. Every week, a portion of my income converts into Bitcoin. Not a huge amount, not life-changing money today, but over time, it adds up. I treat Bitcoin like my real savings account. Not my gambling money, not my trading account, my savings, the money I'm not touching for years. No stress, no emotion, just pure discipline and accumulation. Because I know what 0.1 Bitcoin is going to represent one day. And I don't need to own a full coin to change my life. I'd love to, obviously, but that's not the goal. The goal is to make sure I don't look back 5 years from now thinking, I was right there, I saw it happening, I understood it, and I still missed it. That's my mindset. Because 0.1 Bitcoin isn't just a number on a screen. It's proof that you understood something fundamental before the world did. One day, maybe sooner than anyone thinks, people are going to scroll through old videos like this one and realize this wasn't hype. This was history being recorded in real time. The moment when average people still had a chance to own a meaningful piece of Bitcoin, and most of them didn't take it. So whether you decide to buy, hold, or just learn, remember this. The window doesn't stay open forever. Right now, 0.1 Bitcoin costs around $11,000. That feels like a lot. But in a world where houses cost $500,000, cars cost $60,000, and college costs $200,000, $11,000 for a scarce digital asset that can't be inflated, can't be confiscated, and can't be controlled by governments is actually cheap. When this window closes, and it will close, 0.1 Bitcoin won't just be valuable, it will be a dream most people missed. The same way owning a full Bitcoin is a dream for most people today. The same way buying Bitcoin at $100 was a dream people laugh about now. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And right now we're in the verse where people still have access, where 0.1 Bitcoin is attainable, where stacking sats every week actually accumulates into something meaningful. This verse doesn't last forever. So if this video made you see Bitcoin differently, if you finally understand why 0.1 Bitcoin is about to become unaffordable, hit subscribe. Because over the coming months and years, I'll be tracking this shift as it happens, showing you the institutions accumulating, showing you the supply shrinking, showing you the moment when everyone else realizes what you're realizing right now. The people who win aren't the ones who bought at the absolute bottom. They're the ones who understood the pattern before it was obvious and acted while they still could. Don't be the person who understood it and did nothing. Don't be the person who looks back wishing they'd stacked sats when they were affordable. The crash is coming. The inflation is here, the system is breaking, and Bitcoin is the lifeboat. The question is whether you get on board while there's still room, or whether you're left treading water watching it sail away. 0.1 Bitcoin. Soon it'll be a dream most people missed. Make sure you're not one of them.